very briefly, inshallah, I just wanted to share this with everyone. What Sheikh Ibn Baz rahimahullah, when he talked about the night of the An-Nisf min Sha'ban, or the middle of Sha'ban, of course, there's all kinds of things that people have heard and differences of opinions and things like this. So 2 points. First of all, what we should believe or recognize with regards to the night of the middle of Sha'ban to be consistent with what we should be upon, versus how to deal with such differences of opinions in this matter, because it's a good example of how to recognize such a thing and not to make it as a ground for disputes and calling people names and things of that nature. So, but first, Sheikh Ibn Baz rahimahullah, he has a maqala or article with regards to the subject, where I'm not reading it word by word, I'm just going through it to briefly to mention what he mentioned about the ihtifal. And there's differences between celebrating and recognizing some of the virtues of the night. So to be consistent, this is the way of the ulama. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, "Man ahdatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa rad," which is a major hadith in the deen. Whoever introduce anything in this matters of ours that is not from it, it's rejected. And the Prophet ﷺ would say in his khutbah, وَشَرُّ الْأُمُورِ مُحْدَثَاتُهَا وَكُلَّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ, and every bid'ah is deviation. There are so many different nusus and texts about the subject, which is foundation of the deen. It is not for us to initiate or to make an act of ibadah that the Prophet ﷺ didn't do, that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum didn't do, and also with celebrations. We don't celebrate what they didn't celebrate as far as Eids are concerned, something that is repeated over and over again. Not to celebrate that you passed an exam or you got promoted in your work, that's fine. Or even celebrating that you memorized the Quran, that's fine. But if you commemorate that date that you memorized the Quran being the 1st of Shawwal, right? This is the day where you finish the Quran. So every year in Shawwal, the 1st of Shawwal, you make a big party and you gather everyone. He says this is the Eid where this is not permissible, this is bid'ah. But if it's you celebrated it because it happened, that's fine. That's okay. This is not under this meanings. So he mentioned that the ayat and the hadith in the subject are so many, and the Prophet ﷺ made it very clear that what people introduce after him and they attribute it to the deen of Islam, whether it's from speech and actions, all of that is rejected bid'ah innovations in the deen for the ones that introduced it, even if they have good intentions. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they knew and recognized and understood this matter very clear. And we talked about it before, and something that needs to be repeated all the times, how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they were very firm and stern against anyone to introduce anything in the deen of Islam, even and regardless of the intentions. Intentions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best what's in the hearts of the people. This is not attacking the hearts of the individuals. And this is how the ulama of Islam, they warned against bid'ah innovations and so on. And he mentioned some of the great ai in this subject. And he says that from the bid'ah, from the innovations that people introduced, is the bid'ah of al-ihtifal, the bid'ah of celebrating the night of the middle of Sha'ban, and to specify the day of it, which is tomorrow, the 15th of Sha'ban, to specify it with fasting. And there's no dalil in this whatsoever that we can rely upon. But if someone fasts because it's Sha'ban, or someone wants to fast, don't prevent yourself from fasting. But it's the only very specific intentions here, it's because of the 15th and because of the ta'zeem of the 15th. And he said that there are a hadith that it's weak or fabricated that refers to this night, that it's not permissible to rely upon. And it does not with its overall numbers of these hadith that can be elevated into the level of sound hadith. They're all weak or fabricated, that is not to be relied upon. And as he mentioned that the hadith that came in the virtues of making salah in this night, فَكُلُّهُ مَوْضُوعٌ, all of it is fabricated about special salah or making salah specifically in that night, as many of the people of knowledge had mentioned. And he mentioned some of the statements of Salaf in this regards. And the majority of the ulama of the opinion that this is something that is innovation in the deen. And these ahadith are either weak or fabricated, which Ibn Rajab rahimahullah in his book Lata'if al-Ma'arif that talks about the different seasons and months and its virtue, he mentioned that it's all weak. When it comes to matters of ibadat, it has to be authentic. So therefore celebrating this night has no asl sahih, no authentic foundation to it that we can refer the weak hadith to it, right? So it's there's no such a thing. So therefore, looking through what he mentioned, rahimahullah, and he mentioned the principle that Sheikh Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah he mentioned in this regards, which is mentioned in the Quran, to refer back any disputes or any differences of opinions to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله ورسوله. If you differ among yourselves in a matter, then refer it back to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And what is in the Quran and the Sunnah, this is what we go by. So when the ulama, if we say that we recognize that there is differences of opinion in this matter, then apply the deen of Allah. Of course, this is for the people of knowledge. When you refer back the matter to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, there's no mention of it whatsoever. That is authentic. Of course, the Quran, none of that is in the Quran. And in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, it's all not authentic. That's why it's something that is bid'ah, innovation in the deen. And he mentioned some of the ayat that talks about this. And he also refers to the kalam of Hafid ibn Rajab in his book Lata'if al-Ma'arif in this matter. And this is where how the differences of opinions get initiated. He said that the night of the middle of Sha'ban, التابعون, some of the tabi'een from the people of Asham, like Khalid ibn Ma'dan and Makhul and Luqman ibn Amir and other than them, كانوا يعظمونها. They used to exalt it, and ويجتهدون فيها, and they would exert themselves in ibadah in this night. And from them, some of the people, they took the virtues of this night. And it was said, this is again the kalam of Ibn Rajab, that it had reached them some of the athar, some of the texts from the Israeliyat. So when that happened and became well known among them, then people start having differences. Those who would follow that and those who would not. And some of them, the group from the Ubbad, the worshippers of the Basra, and other than that. The ulama of Al-Hijaz, they أنكروا ذلك. They refuted this. They said this is not permissible. And like Ata ibn Abi Mulaika and others from Fuqaha al-Madinah, and the same thing with the Ashab of Imam Malik and other than them. And they said all of that is bid'ah. And the ulama of Sham are the ones that they were in two opinions in this. Some of them, they said it's recommended to make the ihya of this night and even in the masajid, as Khalid ibn Ma'dan wa Luqman, and they said they would wear the best of their clothing and things like this, and they would make salah in the masajid in that night. And they said that this is not bid'ah. The other one, those who said it's disliked to get together in the masajid for it, for salah or stories or dua, but it's not makruh if someone makes it or makes the ibadah alone in his house or with his family. And this is the statement of Imam al-Awza'i. And this is what he said that is more closer to what's correct. Meaning, this is what Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, he says, that the second one, that it's not to be gathered in a masjid for them to do it, but if someone does it at home, this is fine. Till he says, and it is not known from Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, any kalam, any statements in the night of the middle of Sha'ban. And there are with details of the nights of the Eid and things like this. But again, it goes back to, there is always recommendation to make the night prayer every night of the year. The issue is of specifying this night with special ibadah. So after he mentioned this, and he mentioned that there's no evidence whatsoever that this is from the Prophet ﷺ or from the Sahaba. None. No evidences from the Prophet ﷺ when it comes to the ibadah, special ibadah in this night, or the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. And what Imam al-Awza'i, he chose from the istihbab or the recommendation for people to do it in their individuals, or and even Hafid ibn Rajab rahimahullah choosing this, he says it's strange and it's weak because there's no adilla, there's no evidences that can be established in this. And again, if someone says you know better than Imam ibn Rajab and others, this is not the case, of course. And it shows that yes, it's not an issue to cause dispute and people to hate each other and to call each other mubtadi' and things like this, because it has some established opinions from the Imam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is a very serious matter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not command us to follow the differences of opinions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to refer the tanazu' or the differences of opinions to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So when you say, but some of the ulama, they said this, but other ulama said otherwise. So why would you choose this and not the other? So when you look at it from the perspective of where is the evidence of that, there's none, meaning specific evidence to that. And he mentioned what Al-Imam Abu Bakr al-Tartushi mentioned, rahimahullah, in his book of Al-Hawadith wal-Bid'ah, that he says that we never seen any of our mashayikh or fuqaha paying attention to this night of the middle of Sha'ban, and they never look into or recognize the statement of Makhul and other than them, and they don't find it any virtue to it more than any other night of the year. And there's people that are extreme in this. And there are fabricated hadith, one of which is, as Imam al-Shawkani rahimahullah, he mentioned in the fabricated hadith, Ya Ali, O Ali, whoever prays 100 rak'ah in the night of the middle of Sha'ban, reciting in every rak'ah, this is the Salah al-Alfiyya or the 1,000 Salah or whatever they call it, every rak'ah with Fatihat al-Kitab, with Fatiha and Qul Allahu Ahad 10 times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will suffice all of his needs. All of that is fabricated. And it's very clear. And the men those who narrated this hadith are unknown. So that means it's majahil. This is fabricated hadith. And also the hadith that is famous among the people, إذا كان ليلة النصف من شعبان فقوموا ليلها وصوموا نهارها. If it's the night of the middle of Sha'ban, pray the night prayer and fast the day that comes after it. And this is ضعيف hadith. And the same thing with mi'at rak'ah, with ikhlas. So all kinds of hadith like this. And you would find it in some of the books, and it's all no authenticity to it whatsoever. So he mentioned all of these types of things, and some of it is the hadith of Aisha also that gets circulated, that the Prophet ﷺ, he went to Al-Baqi', and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came down in the night of the 15th of Sha'ban to this worldly heavens, and he forgives people as the number of the hair of the sheep and the goats. All of that is fabricated, and it's not authentic, and it's weak, and it has inqita', is no continuation of the sanad. And if someone says, but this is Fada'il A'mal, it's okay to take the weak hadith in Fada'il A'mal. This is not what none of the ulama said. It's permissible to take a hadith to initiate an action with Fada'il A'mal. Fada'il A'mal, that means, as he mentioned, and we heard it, if it's already has an asl, it's already known with authentic hadith that there's virtue in making salah in that night. Then if you narrate some weak hadith that supports the same opinion, sure, no problem. But not to initiate a new action. This is the whole thing when it comes to ibadah specifically for this night. And some people, they make salah, they call it Salatul Raghaib, which is 12 rak'ah between Maghrib and Isha, and which is in Rajab. We talked about it before. Or Salatul Laylatul Nisf min Sha'ban, as Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, he mentioned it, 100 rak'ah. He said these two salahs, this is what Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, he said in his book Al-Majmu', one of the very comprehensive books in fiqh. He said, هاتان الصلاتان بدعتان منكرتان. These two salah, Salat al-Raghaib in Rajab and the salah in the middle of Sha'ban, these are two bid'ahs munkaratan, to be forbidden. ولا يغتر بذكرهما, and no one is to be deceived that it's mentioned in the book of Ihya, الإحياء and قوت القلوب, and where the hadith are mentioned, فإن كل ذلك باطل. All of that is falsehood. And not to be deceived by those who the matters have been confused because of the imma. All of that is wrong. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us with these types of things, and of course with respecting the imma, of course. but we are not commanded to follow the imam for the sake of following the imam, unless a person, if he has no other means except that. So he mentioned some of these types of, I'm just skipping many of the things that he mentioned. So after all of that, Sheikh Rahimahullah, he says, after all of this, يتضح لطالب الحق, it becomes very clear to the one that is seeking the truth of the matter, that celebrating this night with salah, or other than salah, specifically specifying, singling out this night, and singling out the day with fasting, is بدعة منكرة عند أكثر أهل العلم. Is بدعة منكرة, abhorred bid'ah to many of the people of knowledge. Has no asl, no origin to it in the Shara', and this is something get introduced after the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. And that is sufficient for someone that is seeker of the truth. Otherwise, you're not consistent in your way of following. When we say we follow the ways of the early generations of Islam, someone would say, but the tabi'een, they're from the early generations of Islam. That's true. That's why it's not a major issue of dispute. But there are mistakes happened, and that's why there's no statements from the Prophet ﷺ that's authentic, and also from the Sahaba, not even one Sahabi, not even a report of one Sahabi done anything specifically in that night. And the takhsis, right, which is even mentioned with Salat, with Yawm al-Jumu'ah. Yawm al-Jumu'ah is the weekly Eid, right? And if any night or any day that can be specified with a specific ibadah, it will be Yawm al-Jumu'ah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith in Sahih Muslim, لا تخصوا ليلة الجمعة بقيام من بين الليل. لا تخصوا, do not specify the night of Jumu'ah with qiyam al-layl, different than the rest of the nights. ولا تخصوا يومها بالصيام, and do not make specific fasting for the day of Jumu'ah unless it's a fasting that a person is normally doing. So therefore, we take from this the ruling, the issue of a takhsis, to make takhsis, to specify any of the nights in worship with ibadah, it is not permissible. Whether it's the night of Jumu'ah, whether it's the night of Eid, or any night that a person, sometimes people, they circulate, there's a Christmas day, whatever, we're gonna gather and make Salatul Qiyam to take people away. This is all not permissible. There's no such a thing. People need to leave the matter, and Qiyamul Layl is in every day of the year. So we only specify what's specified in the Shara'. Laylatul Qadr, the days, the nights of Ramadan, Salatul Taraweeh, and Qiyam Ramadan, and the last 10 nights of Ramadan. All of these things are to be recognized specifically. And since there's nothing authenticated about this, then it becomes bid'ah muhdatha, and this is what the ulama had mentioned. So this is briefly what he said, rahimahullah. And especially that these statements from some of the imma, it's not backed up with a hadith. Person would say, but where did they get it from? Allah knows best. This is not our responsibility. It's al-ibra, or what matters is what's the evidence, not the fact that there are differences of opinion. I hope many people, they don't understand this concept. اختلاف العلماء ليس بحجة. The differences of opinions among the ulama is not by itself an evidence to approve this action or this action. But what approves the actions is the evidences in the Quran and the Sunnah. But اختلاف العلماء, if the ulama, they have differences of opinions, we recognize that. You see the difference. Recognize it, that means we don't become in dispute with one another. There's major difference between both. If there's differences of opinions, we're not going to fight with one another. The brotherhood can continue, right? And there's no need for disputes and calling each other names, and people are mubtadi'ah and things like this. There's no need for this, because there's a difference. Some A'imma had mentioned this. But does that mean the A'imma, since they have differences, that means we say that the other opinion is valid? No. Because the ikhtilaf, there is no evidence in the Quran and the Sunnah that the differences of opinion is one of the evidences, one of the ways to establish an evidence in the deen. But we say mura'atul ikhtilaf, to recognize that this is present, and it's not something that should cause dispute among them. And very few those who would have this fairness in dealing with things. And not every differences of opinions is a valid differences of opinions, right? And to recognize the their relationships and things of that nature. And if people have other issues, that's a different situation. And as we heard, this was a matter that is among in the tabi'een from the ulama of Sham, ulama al-Hijaz, they were safe from this. And this is what, once you open the door, then what, can a person then stop in this matter? And the hadith, some of them compiled it, and one hadith or two where some of the ulama, they said it's Hasan, that has nothing to do with specifying the night with ibadah, which is the hadith that many people they mentioned, which is the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, إن الله لا يطلع على أهل الأرض ليلة النصف من شعبان, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala look into the people of the earth in the night of the 15th of Sha'ban, فيغفر لجميع خلقه, he forgives all of his creation إلا لمشرك أو مشاحن, except for a mushrik and mushahin, someone that has malice or quarrelsome and so on. And if some of the ulama, they grade it as Hasan, like Sheikh Albani or others, okay, that's fine. But what is the hadith says? Don't be a mushrik and don't be mushahin. So purify your heart from any shahna, from any hatred, from any malice, from any disputes and quarrelsome with others. Forgive, pardon, which is a beautiful thing, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive the sins, and staying away, of course, from shirku billahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. Does it mention any ibadah? No. Does it becomes by necessity? Since that's the case, therefore there's no such a thing. And if you feel, for example, tonight, like any other night, sometimes and we should not make our ibadah based on feelings, by the way, but you find yourself have nashat or energy to make the night prayer. Should you say, no, I'm not going to make night prayer tonight because this is specifying? You're not specifying anything. If you feel like you have energy to make salah anytime. And salah is the best subject. Make dua. Read Quran. Make it the start for the next days to come. And preparing oneself for Ramadan, and the way the Prophet ﷺ, every night there is night prayer to be established. So this is something that should not prevent the person, or some people say, why you're preventing people from making ibadah? We should encourage people to make ibadah. So there's no discouragement here. Make ibadah and read Quran and make dua and make night prayer. But don't have it in your heart that you're specifying this in this night. This is what the issue is. Even if you started all of a sudden, inshallah, tonight on onward, I'm going to make my night prayer. Beautiful, mashallah. This is a good thing. And then you have all kinds of bid'ah that people add to this. Some people, they have special desserts in the day of the night of Sha'ban. And some people, they have a special dua. And if you say this dua, you will get this and you get that and all kinds of things. This is all bid'ah, clear bid'ah. Not even, and this is how you see the effect of it. Not even those who are from Hashem, they would do this. You see what I'm saying? So people take one thing and then they add to it all kinds of things with it. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the evil of our own selves. And I hope that the matter is clear, that nobody would say, but does that mean that these people, as I said, this is what our ulama are upon, and this is what we should follow, and at the same time, not to call people mubtadi'ah or to call them names or to look down upon them. This is not permissible, and this is a valid issue that should not cause any hatred or anything, but to be inconsistent with what we know. طيب, I'll stop here, inshallah. If you have any questions, go ahead. Won't take too much of your time. So the correct thing is to do is respect what some of the tabi'in, yes. And it doesn't mean that we say it's correct because they did it, but to recognize, to respect that there are opinions there. Now, can we say that the fact that none of the imams of the Salaf specified this night for worship indicates that this ikhtilaf is invalid difference of opinion? In a sense, yes. But at the same time, if you have imam mentioned these types of things, is to give an excuse, to be at ease, right? This is what is meant, is to be to recognize that there is something. That's the only thing, so that it doesn't cause disputes among people when we're not supposed to have any disputes even in that night, according to that one hadith. Barakallahu fikum. And this is a good example to mention. So that people say, oh, this is tabi'in, and you say, follow the salaf. Yeah, recognizing, but it's not everything that the salaf, anyone said anything about a matter, that we have to follow that, meaning in the sense that other salaf, that they said other things, and majority of them are as we heard. Anything else, inshallah? طيب, barakallahu fikum. I took too much of your time. We'll stop here, inshallah, and we continue, inshallah ta'ala, next time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us witness the month of Ramadan and guide us and help us to do what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times, inshallah. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.